Uneducated, unfiltered, unhinged. This is the Mangina Dialogues. We at it again with your host Nick Scopes and the Gregolicious. You know how we do, cause you know we keeping it gangster and silly. Unplugged like a full swung titty. About get kitty, cause you know we down to the nitty and the gritty. And we make shit sound so damn pretty. Yeah, cause this unhinged comedy. And right now you're in the mix, so get ready, cause we about to get it poppin'. And we ain't stopping. Uneducated, unfiltered, unhinged.
Hello and welcome to the Mangina Dialogues. I am your host, Nick Scopes.
And I'm Greg Alprin. That was my sleepy voice.
Greg's really bringing the energy tonight. I'm gonna have to rely on our guest, Hatem Gabr, to pick up the energy. How are you, sir?
It's great. I'm good. Thank you guys for having me. Love your show.
Appreciate it. Thanks for coming on, man.
I'm just tired of hearing the theme song. I don't know. It sucks all the energy out of
Taking
it.
a
I was
toll.
just gonna give you a compliment in the song. I really like it.
A lot of people like it. And I saw
Yeah.
you vibing a little bit. I know.
Yeah.
This is the 100th and
50
something time we've, you know what I mean?
I hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It has a special place in my heart, but
Did you write it?
no, I didn't write it. Well, yes and no. I wrote like a couple of the key lyrics, and then I just handed it over to a couple of hip hop guys and was like, "Make me a rap song, man." And they did. And now we have a video for it too, which is done by puppets. So it's pretty funny. I have two versions of it. One which Nick absolutely hates because it's like very Beastie Boys style, and for some reason, Nick, who grew up right here in Westchester, has a passionate hatred for the Beastie Boys.
I don't hate him. I mean, just not my thing. It's like how I feel about like Bruce Springsteen. Like I don't hate him, but I'm never gonna listen to him. You know what I mean?
I hear you.
That's just how
So
I
you're a
feel.
music producer as well, I guess. You can add that to your credit.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's something. We don't know what he is.
Definitely something.
We're trying to figure it out.
What's going on with you? How's the city? How's the comedy business?
I mean, it's great. It's working every day. I produce shows left and right.
It's booming. Yeah. Booming in New York City. Yeah.
It's crazy. Especially like, I produce a lot of shows usually like around the city, and just, it's crazy how you see like all the venues are just like, ready to go, but they don't have the permit to. So,
yeah. So what's the general feeling in the city? I mean, obviously, we're pretty close to the guys at Stand Up New York, so I see all the stuff that those guys do and post, and it's an interesting time because there's a lot of hypocrisy that seems to be going on in regards to what can open, who can do stuff, and who can't. And I'm curious from obviously you're close and do a lot with the Comedy Cellar, obviously hosting one of the podcasts and booking shows and doing stuff there, and having worked there for a long time. What are you guys thinking?
I mean, I can't really speak for them. I'm friends with Noam, the owner, so we talk regularly about comedy because, when I worked there for a while, then I start producing my own shows. So we start, talking about this. Noam in general is very cautious about, he really cares about the people not getting sick and all that, and the comedians especially. So it's hard. But I think, as an outsider, I think it will be easier for the Comedy Cellar to get back
Right.
once they open, because obviously they're popular, they have 2 rooms, so they can manage the capacity. But when they open,
Right.
that's the other question. But there's another I don't know if you heard about it. It's called Mint Comedy. So what they do is they produce show. They're working with the Cellar. The guy who owns it is Mustafa. He's Dave Chappelle's former manager.
Right.
And what they do is they tape live shows, comedy with the Comedy Cellar, with audience tested, in a studio, not at the Comedy Cellar, but at the studio.
Yeah.
And they test it and they air it live, but you cannot watch it again. So it's kind of bringing that feel of actually being in the comedy club. So I think that's the best thing that's happening in comedy right now.
Right. Where is it? So how often do they do that?
They do it now once a month, but I think they're gonna jump to twice and then once a week.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And did so you produce comedy shows independently across the city?
Yeah.
Right? And did you do a lot of stuff during the summer when you could do stuff outdoors and rooftops and patios and porches and stoops and tennis courts?
I didn't see it like that, to be honest. Like, you guys are comedians, so you understand. Like, for you have the need to perform, because that's your passion. That's where But for me, I want to produce a great show. So I want the environment to be ready to represent the show. So I feel like, outside, yeah, people needed comedy, and I saw the shows outside and I saw the shows in the rooftop, but I wasn't a big fan of it.
Yeah.
So I didn't really try. I thought of doing it like out of the city, like Long Island was still open and stuff like that. I thought also of doing something crazy, actually, but I backed up at the last minute. I wanted to do do you guys know what the silent DJ is?
No.
So the silent
is that like where people go, like a silent disco?
Yeah.
So
People
so
wear
everybody will be in a
headphones.
club listening to their own music,
Right.
but dancing, but you can't hear anything because everybody have their own music playing,
Yep.
So I thought I'd do something like that in the comedy, because I wanted to be like, when I did a producer show, I wanted to be like, people can actually hear the comedian,
Sure.
and there's like some kind of exclusiveness to the show.
Right.
So that was gonna go, but then the thing just was too much, people getting sick. So I was like, what, let's just wait.
Yeah, that's
this whole outdoor, like, as a comic, I've just at a certain point after 5 months off, it was like I just need to get up and say these words because I can't even remember half the shit, or like the order's fucked up or whatever. But now I feel you. Obviously, I haven't done a Zoom show. I probably won't. I don't think I ever will. The outdoor stuff, it was fun, and it's something, and you get some sort of feedback, do Central Park, but like you never know how you do because you're outdoors, and like, like I did like a comedy festival here in Connecticut, and Greg came to watch me, and he was like, "That was good." I go, "I guess so. I don't really know, like." All the laughter, we're in the middle of a field. So like you can't, like, I don't know. Like I heard them laughing, but it's not as loud as I was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Colin Quinn did a show in with cars. Colin.
I saw that. Yeah.
Oh, did you see that?
I saw.
Yeah. So that was like when they say like in the beginning, it was weird because they couldn't, like you said, they couldn't see like people laughing or whatever. So they asked him to honk and like turn the lights on when they laugh.
So strange. Dude.
Yeah. So it's crazy. I feel for you guys.
Yeah, it's pretty.
But also for us as a producer, money is gonna play a factor in this. I'm against not paying anybody. Like there's some people doing shows and not paying. I can't do that.
Right. Yeah. So when you do shows, but you work all across the city, right? So you do shows in different places. So and they all go, there's like different names, right? Like So what makes those shows different from each other?
I for a while I did a lot of comedy on Broadway.
Right.
I had the Liberty Theater, like in 42nd and stuff.
Yep.
So I wanted to bring like a Broadway experience, but with comedy,
Yep.
So I started. So the way I did it is like I started like a red carpet before the show, and then a comedy show, and then a club party.
Oh, that's cool.
That was one theme.
Right.
The other one could have been like just kind of like regular stand-up show, but like a lot of comedians within 10 minutes each.
Yeah.
They just do 10 minutes.
Yep.
So kind of like speed comedy.
So you're like a promoter, like at heart, right? So I mean, I recognize that because I used to do that. I used to promote all different stuff across the city, mainly nightclubs, but we would do theme nights at 10 different clubs and have all different kind of crazy themes and different gimmicks to each club and each night and all that. And it seems like, just talking to you for a few minutes, that's kind of like where your mind is at. You want to bring something different and unique to every show you do, so it's not just the same.
Yeah, and the thing is, I have so much respect for comedy and the comedians I work around and with. It's just like they all great. So I would never do like something that comedy is not the main event.
Right.
What I'm saying?
Sure. How do you think it's going to change when everything starts to open back up?
I mean, that's the $1 million question.
Well, you've seen it, but
Everybody,
we've seen some places already not come back, right? Dangerfields,
yeah, unfortunately.
Creek in the Cave,
Creek and
obviously,
Cave,
they're
yeah.
not coming back, and there's rumors, across the city about other stuff too. But like, how do you think that changes the landscape and the quality of the shows? There's obviously so many comedians, but do you think it weeds out some of the open micers and the first timers? Like, do you think that the scene somehow weeds itself out? Like, what do you think?
That's a great point. I thought about that a lot. Is like when comedy comes back, is it gonna be fair for somebody who just started, or is it actually gonna be a better opportunity for them because people will not afford to pay like big comedians,
Right.
But then on the other hand, all the big comedians gonna just willing to jump on the stage and do
Sure.
some time.
Yeah.
So I think it's gonna be a lot of rooms open, not necessarily comedy clubs, but I
Right.
think it's gonna be a lot of shows all over. I think a lot of every bunch of comedians gonna have a room for them,
Sure.
and I think it's gonna be busy. I think people need comedy. Another thing, I heard a lot of people trying to open clubs in the South now because they think
Yeah.
this is gonna be a long-term thing. So South is more like warmer. So
Right.
I think the Cellar will open in Vegas soon once the one though because they have one in Vegas as well.
Right. Where?
So
Oh yeah. Where is it in Vegas?
I forgot the name of the hotel. But it's not open yet. The
Right.
hotel itself is not open. So
Oh, right. I think it's in one of the newer
yeah,
releases.
they
Yeah.
think it will open soon.
Right.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. I have no idea. If someone asked me that question, my answer would be I have no freaking clue.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's because we produce shows out here in Connecticut, right? We're about an hour outside the city, and we've been producing shows for almost 2 years. And it's interesting to see the pool of talent that we always used to do shows with, whether it was would come to our open mics or some of our showcases or whatever they might be. You can already see a lot of the people that were like on the cusp, right, that are sort of faded away.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But then the people who clearly had talent are now kind of doubling down on that talent and kind of really kind of going for it, which I think is cool to see. But it's still a weird time because there's only so many places you can go to practice.
Yeah.
And those places are now, it looks like at this point, clubs doing bigger shows, especially out here in Connecticut. So there's not that much opportunity for guys that, unlike Nick, who, because we run shows, has as much opportunity as anybody to really get out there and do what you need to do to become a better comic.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'd be curious to see how what effects that has in the city once, the city starts to open up again. And
yeah, I thought of that also. I was like, I wonder how the lineup is gonna be. Like, who's like I remember like it's different, but I compare it kind of to like 9/11 when it happened.
Right.
I was working at the Cellar at that time, and obviously you're like, it's not time for comedy. It's not gonna happen. But then the next day, I don't know if you guys remember, they had this benefit in Madison Square Garden, a huge one with
Sure.
Seinfeld and Rock, and they all wanted to practice to do into the Cellar.
Yeah.
And when they went to the Cellar to practice, obviously the people went to, so comedy kind of picked up right back.
Right.
So I feel like a lot of the big comedians needs to to carry it in a little bit, I'm saying, and promote it again and stuff. I know Chappelle has been doing shows in Ohio.
Yeah, and Austin.
And Austin with Rogan.
Yeah.
Just I think Rogan said he wants to open a comedy club in Austin.
He is opening a comedy club.
He is.
Yeah.
He's truly, I mean, New York, at least in New York, I believe indoor dining is coming back or is back, right?
25%, yeah.
Still something. The gyms are open. That's something. California, I mean, LA is nothing. And he's convinced, every podcast I hear him on, he's convinced, he's like, it ain't coming back for a very long time.
In New York?
No, in California, he's saying.
In California,
New York, there's signs of life, I'm saying. Like there's even like when we went to do the Central Park shows in the summer and all, like, you're like, wait, the city's not dead. Like there's people here. There's still action. Central Park was packed. I was like, there's still things. LA is nothing. And he's convinced that there's no shots come. Yeah, that it's going to be dead for a long, long time. So
yeah, I do feel New York is gonna bounce back quicker
for sure. I think so,
I mean,
too.
I'm even like during this crazy time, like when when guests were hosting Saturday Night Live, I remember they wanted, like Bill Burr and all these guys, when they were hosting the last weeks, they wanted to practice something, so they would go to a place and just do a little bit, even when it's closed, just a special night or something.
Yeah.
So I think you can start a night and you'll be surprised who will show up.
Yeah, I think New York springs back very fast. I'm not one of these people that thinks that it's some long-term, thing that's gonna crush New York City. I don't see it. I mean, my main office is in Midtown Manhattan, which I haven't been to a whole hell of a lot, but the few times I've come into the city, it's noticeably getting better every month, right?
Yeah,
And I even
absolutely.
talked to someone in the real estate business the other day who said that they're starting to see signs that the real estate market is starting to come back in the city already, which nobody would have predicted 6 months ago. So, I definitely think there's pockets in the country that are going to suffer, but I don't think New York City's one of them. I think New York City is probably.
Do you think clubs is going to come back, or it's going to be more like nights?
You say that again?
Do you think comedy clubs are going to come back, or it's going to be more like nights?
I mean, I only can answer that, in my opinion, being once there's enough vaccinations around, I think that people start to feel like they have a superpower, right? And they're going to start going out again. I talked to my mother, who's 80 years old today. She finally got her appointment to get vaccinated this week. And like, the first thing she said is she's like, I'll be able to go out next week to dinner. I'm like, no, that's not how it works. You need to give it like a month. I'm like, and I think that that's sort of in a lot of people's mind. They're going to get vaccinated and they can go back to normal. Is that the safest thing? No, but it's at least people getting back out to doing things. So I think that comedy clubs, discos, people going and sweating on each other, like big discos in the city. I mean, that business is kind of dead. That business is kind of dead anyway.
You see, I'm optimistic. Like for me, I usually rent theaters because, as I said, I want to give a theater experience to the comedy show. So usually it's very expensive. Right now is like I've been reached by a lot of the theaters I used to work with, and they're willing to do whatever.
Yeah, as I mentioned, we produce shows out here, and we work with a theater that is a beautiful state-of-the-art theater that normally their capacity is 650 people, and they have 2 rooms, one that's 650, one that's 220. And they're not using the 200 person room because you only can get 25 people in there correctly socially distanced. But in the 600 room person theater, they have built this out to where right now in Connecticut, you only can have 100 people inside. So we're doing 100 people shows that are built in little pods, right? So you either have to buy a 2-person, 4-person, or 3-person pod, and you have to stay in that pod. But we had our first show last week there, and it was sold out. It sold out very quickly. Nice. And it's because the community is like dying for entertainment, right?
Absolutely.
And to go to a place you could trust and know that it's socially distanced well, and you can see it online. You can see the whole thing online, know you're going to go have a safe experience. I think once you start getting back into that, you'll see how quickly people come back to you.
Yeah. And to your point is like how people want it, dying for entertainment. That my friend that I told you produced that show, which is tape with the Cellar, and they tape it live.
Yep.
And then they air it on their website only for that specific time.
Yeah.
50% of the people are from like international audience, like from England and from Russia, a lot of them. So it's all around the world. Even though I do believe like stand-up is an American art more than anything else,
Sure.
Yeah,
so people really miss that because they can't travel to the US, especially to New York, to get that experience. So I think that worked well,
Yeah, and I'm sure it's very good quality, and the production value is good, which I think makes a big difference in what people are willing to or seek out and to pay for. Because I've watched a few of these Zoom shows that I've had friends on, of course, to watch them, and without naming names, some of them are really poorly done, and it's hard to watch, right? So like it's hard to laugh, and think it's funny, even though it is, when the production value is not good. So if your production value is not good, you're not going to bring people back, no matter who's on those showcases and the shows. So, I think that's a big part of it, because it's almost like, there's been no bigger piece to the Netflix model the last couple of years than stand-up comedy specials. They've invested, an ungodly amount of money on stand-up comedy specials, and a lot of them are stuff that was already done. They didn't produce it, they just bought it. And same with Comedy Dynamics.
Yeah.
And there's a different quality of some of the specials, but they're all very good. And as long as you're producing that quality, then people are going to come to you, whether it's on Netflix, Amazon,
Absolutely.
or through your stream, through your website. So that's the most important thing, I think, is the quality.
And eventually people are gonna be want to see it live, because they're sick of everything. So that's why I truly believe that New York especially will come back. And it'll be golden time for comedians, you guys. Like it's just like if you if it's done right, like you said.
I keep trying to tell Nick to get out there as much as he can. I don't do stand up. Nick does.
And,
he's got a great talent. He's very, very good. And I mean, I hate saying that. Believe me, it pains me.
I know.
I hate hearing it too. It's the worst.
But I keep trying to say, listen, you got to get out there as much as you can, because the second stuff opens up, you got to be able to pounce, and make your time and make your moment, because that's what's going to rise to the top. And it shows.
Yeah. And I see a lot of comedians use this past period in doing a really good job in social media, and in writing. So some just wait it out, some are writing, and some are doing a lot of social media. So, it could work.
Yeah. When did you come to the United States?
Oh, 25 years ago, maybe.
Right. So how old were you?
I was 20 or 19.
Right. And what brought you here, just to get out of where you were?
Actually, I just came on vacation. My dad used to live here,
right.
And I finished school, and I was like, I went on vacation, and then I came, and then I liked it. I was like, I'll stay.
There's a lot going on here. This is kind of cool. Yeah.
There's a war close by where I'm from, and I'm gonna stay here.
Yeah, I was like, I like it. It's all right. I used to travel a lot when I was younger. I didn't really live in one country for a long time, but and my dad had said he grew up here, he studied here, and then he moved here. So I was like, all right, let me see what's going on, and then I liked it. So I was like,
And you grew up in Kuwait, right?
I was born in Kuwait. I lived there till the first war, and then I went to college in Egypt.
Oh, okay.
For 4 years, yeah.
Right.
And then moved here.
And do you have any do you go back there at all?
To I mean, to Kuwait I went back once. Maybe I was going to Dubai, so I was like, let me swing by. Egypt I try to go every couple of years, 2-3 years.
You have family and obviously friends and stuff there?
Friends, family, no. Family are mostly here.
All here.
But yeah. But I like when I travel, I like to go somewhere new.
Yeah, right. Me too.
Yeah.
It's like I've seen this before.
Yeah, I've already been here. I went to college here. I'm over this shit.
Yeah.
So now you come to the US, you're 20. So how did you get involved into producing shows and comedy and all this stuff? How did that come about?
What's funny is a friend of mine got me a job. He's waiting tables in a place called Olive Tree.
No way. I was going to say, I knew it. I'm like, you know what? He worked at the Olive Tree.
So I was like, all right, let me go. So I go there, and you really don't know what's going on downstairs. You just see lines and lines, and and then I was like, I start seeing some famous people, but he's so busy, you can't really tell if was that. No, maybe not. And then. But you see people, laughing and stuff, and many Norm's dad, who was the owner back then, and then, so I start working at the Cellar right away, at the Comedy Cellar right away, and then when I start going down, my friend used to work at the door at the Comedy Cellar, which is the best job.
Yeah.
So then Manny asked me to be a manager, and I really didn't want to. I was like, oh yeah, you're gonna have to do it. And I was like, okay. And then my friend that worked the door, left. He became Chappelle's manager, and I took his job. I became the door. And he became Chappelle manager. He signed that $50 million deal and everything. It was just. And then I was like, I remember my first, time at the Cellar or watching stand-up comedy, because stand-up comedy was not big back then in the rest of the world, Right. And I came from the Middle East. So the first time I saw somebody doing a political joke, I was like, oh, I can't wait for the Secret Service to come.
He's going to get killed.
Yeah. And then nothing happened. I was like, whoa, what's going on? This is awesome.
Dude, and that's so funny.
And I just started, admiring the art, and I just got to know all the comedians. And I started to know a lot of people, a lot of the famous comedian when they were just starting.
Yeah.
And I saw their journey, and I became a big fan of that, and I have so much respect. But I mean, like, the lineup when I started was like Greg Giraldo, Colin Quinn, David Tell, Chappelle, Chris Rock. I mean,
Jesus Christ.
it's, you see, you'd be like, whoa, this is just amazing. Louis C.K. I don't want to forget anybody. So many,
Yeah.
and you see, open mic. I don't want to see who was in open mic, but you see like people who's like superstars now are doing the open mic, and they all have like certain, character. You can always tell who's gonna make it.
Right.
And it's never by who's the funniest person. It's never like that,
Yeah.
And what do you what's if it's not their talent or the funniest person, what do you see in that person?
I always say the number one thing is communication. Their communication skills, and not only with the fans or with the managers or with the other the whole thing. It's always, I always give that example. Is like if I'm booking a show, and I'm calling, say, 5 people, one like a mega star, one is like star, one is like working comedian, and 2 open micers. The first one's gonna get back to me as a superstar right away, either yes or no. You know what I'm saying? And and the same thing, if you have a project, the first people is going to get back to you, like, just they're so fast jumping in opportunity and understanding the opportunity, dealing with it, so their communication of yes, I can do this, or no, I cannot do this, is great. And that communication make them communicate the jokes better to the audience, even if it's not funnier. Like, I see the same not same joke, but same topic, 2 different comedians doing it. One is so funny, but one is just can get it to the people. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So yeah, I think that's major, communication. But it's never the funniest. But I saw a lot of funny people that did not make it. I mean, I'm sure you know that.
Yeah. So it is funny because I lived in the city for many years and used to go down and spend a lot of time, obviously, down on Bleecker and Thompson and everywhere over there. And I mean, the amount of time I spent in the Olive Tree is insane, right? And I didn't spend that much time in the Comedy Cellar, but I spent an insane amount of time in the Olive.
When was that?
Oh man, the mid '90s to mid '90s, mid to late '90s.
Before my time. Okay, I was gonna say, how come we never met?
But we might. I mean, we moved out of the city in 2004. 2000.
Okay, so I'm sure we met then.
Oh, I
started 2000.
It's. I mean, I honestly, me and my wife spent so much time there just because my wife's Middle Eastern. Her parents from Libya, and
nice.
So anywhere there's a good Middle Eastern restaurant, we obviously go there. And I used to be like, there's a comedy club downstairs. We really should go down. And like, never. Like, I mean, I did with friends and stuff, and I grew up going in Village Underground and all those places. But it's just funny because like it's so New York City to have one of the greatest comedy clubs in the world beneath like a killer Middle Eastern
and the funny thing is like the energy, like you can see like Madonna, and next to her is the chef who just care about the chicken kebab. He doesn't want to see anybody right now, just get out of my way. He doesn't even know who she is, and just get out of my way, and
like, I'm busy, I'm working, leave me alone.
I don't have time for that. and they were like, so that energy, the combination, and that was the best. I always say, like, when people tell me what's the best memory at the Cellar or stuff like that, is I always say the behind the scenes stuff, that people don't see, the interaction between comedians or between staff and comedians and stuff like that. So when I left the Comedy Cellar, I have my friend Keith and Carl. I have friends with all these guys. It's like, why don't you start producing your shows? And I was like, that's a good idea. So I started, it's funny, I started as a bet in Philadelphia. There's a Helium Comedy Club.
Yep.
So my friend Keith Robinson, the comedian, I went with him to Philly, and the owner of Philly is like, Philly's dead and Sunday, you can never do a show. So it's like, well, we'll do a show here and we're gonna kill it. You're gonna sell everything. It's like, it's impossible. It's like, we'll see. So we had a show there once a month, and we had like Kevin Hart and Patrice, Colin Quinn and Tony Rock, and like every
Wow.
It was insane, and he's like, he was complaining there's too many people coming, so it was
that's funny.
It was something, and then I started in New York and Lake City around, so I was like, always make sure, like, I respected the art so much that I always wanted to do something like that.
Yeah. And with the podcast that you do with Noam, what he has Live from the Table and Live from America, right? And
we don't like Live from the Table that much.
You what?
I don't like live from the table.
I won't say anything. So, I mean, you guys have such amazing guests on your show, and the other show that we won't name names to has such a wide range of different guests on that show too. Like, how do you guys decide, like, you're going to have this person on and he's not going to have that person on? Like, is there a battle sometimes between who gets what and how what you want to focus on? Because, they're both not traditional comedy podcast, obviously.
No. So the thing is started, for Live from the Table, they always wanted to capture, because in the olive tree, the last table is a comedian's table.
Yep.
And that is the funniest place you want to be. Like all the comedians, even the big stars, they go there because they want to be roasted, because everybody just roasts everybody. It's so funny. So that's how a lot of people started. Like Colin Quinn wanted to start his show, Tough Crowd, based on that, and that, so they wanted to capture, I think the one that came up with the idea, I think it was Robert Kelly. So they started to do it, and they wanted to have a mix of like comedians talking about real issues, so they started that show years ago, and they wanted to mix it up. And then when I started my show, I with Noam, I think it was 3 years ago, maybe 3.5 about. So it was different production, so the person who books that show is different than the person I book my show, so I was like, I wanted to lean more towards everything, every topic and everything, what I'm saying? And I wanted to use the word that I always have with Noam. We always debated the whole time, he's from Israel, I'm from Egypt. We always debate, because I used to even debate with his dad, Manny. Manny was a big, huge comedy figure as well, but he loves debate. Like if I say something and he doesn't like it, he's like, sit down, let's debate this. Right. And it's funny, I used to always do that in New Year's Eve, because we have to decorate the room for 3 hours. So I just tell him something, it's like, sit down, and so I get rid of work. I don't have to do anything. Everybody else is working. I was like, oh, Israel suck. It's like, what? Sit down, let's talk about it. So talk for 4 hours. I don't have to work, do anything, still get paid. So it was awesome.
Good trick.
So I wanted to have a show with Noam and have comedians and add guests as well, so we have two different bookers, and I think that's what makes it. And for my show, I try to go like all fields, as you see. Like I had like International Space Station commander, I have like whatever, anybody that I see that is really have a unique experience, I'd like to get. From time to time we'll have the same thought about the same guest, me and the other booker, but sometimes it's funny. I think it's worse when I know you guys also book your shows, or I don't know if you have somebody books it for you, but when you book somebody and after you book them that they're crazy, you're like, there's something wrong with this guy, I don't want him. So if I find out something like this, I try to pass him to Live from the Table.
Right.
And if they have somebody like that, they try to pass it to me. So we have this thing going, I was like, oh, I'm booked, but if you want to reach out this person,
That's funny. Who is it? Periel books for the
Periel, yeah, it was Periel is the one booking up right now.
Yeah. She's a friend.
Yeah, she's great. Yeah,
and she's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
but it's crazy because when I was going through, like the sheer amount of different guests from different worlds that have sat in with you guys, it's incredible. Like, variety of people, right? From like what you mentioned, astronauts, porn stars, models, district attorneys, CIA agents, obviously comedians. It's wild.
Yeah, it's really it's very hard, and I know you guys are professional podcasters, so you understand. It's very hard to like also, because not everyone is open to come, especially with comedians. Like when you around, if I tell guests, okay, come and like we'll do this for the three of us and a regular guest, it's like, oh, I'm worried about these guys. They're comedians, they're gonna make fun of me the whole time.
Right.
So they have to explain to them it's not really a comedy show.
Right.
It's just like my main thing is like I want to lay the information to people, the correct information,
sure,
but with a sense of humor, you get it more like that. So, and in the beginning it was hard a little bit, getting that formula and getting guests too, but I think it rolls. Once you get great guests, once you have some good names, everybody just, all they do is they check the names and they're like, yeah, I'm in,
Yeah. I mean, that's really, obviously what's helped Nick and I build this podcast in a pretty short amount of time. We've been doing it about a year and a half, and we've been lucky, of course. We managed to take advantage of the last 10 months with people's downtime and most comedians saying yes to everything. And, obviously, and I have a history. I used to publish a music magazine that I founded and ran for 10 years. So,
Nice.
I know kind of how to talk the language of getting people to come on. But, when we have a couple things going against us is our name is a little tough for some people to wrap their head around.
Yeah.
But again, a lot of people that we've had some people on the show. We had Joan Blades, who founded MoveOn.org, right? Which that's an unconventional guest for us to get, right? And she said yes right away, just with a couple of questions, like we weren't going to make fun of things. And I'm like, we're not a stand-up comedy show. We're not doing jokes. We're not going to poke fun at you. We just want to bring you on, and there's obviously good reason to talk to you with everything going on in the world. And that's kind of what we wanted to do, is come at it from a comedic perspective.
Absolutely.
But not make it, let's just get on and tell a bunch of, dick jokes and whatever.
I agree 100%. Yeah.
And that's great. That's what I think has led to our success, is that people continually say, oh, it's like listening to a couple of buddies, talking about whatever they're talking about. It's not competitive, right?
Yeah.
We're not trying to get a joke over on someone on the other line, on the other
Absolutely.
side.
Yeah.
Especially when you get a guest like Joan Blades, or like, we had Anthony Scaramucci, who was, I'm not interested in trying to be like the funny guy at that point. Like, I just want to listen to these people. Like, even though we have a funny, like Jamie Kennedy, right? Very funny guy, famous comedic actor. But like, I want to listen to him talk and ask him questions because of what his career, like how it's been. Like, I didn't even know he was a stand-up. You know what I mean? Like, I knew he did stand up like 8 times and then became a actor. And then he just went with it. You know what I mean? So you learn a lot. You just got to shut up a little bit more and listen. That's what I like.
But that's the thing, is like, when you have a comedy background like you guys, is like, there's always, you can ask the questions in so many ways, but when you have humor, when you add humor to it, people feel good while they're listening to the show and stuff like that. Not a lot of people can do that for me. The only thing, as I said, is like sometimes, either have a crazy guest or have a guest who's like afraid they're gonna be made fun of, or even worse, I guess, trying to make jokes to be funny, and it's not.
We've had a couple guys. I mean, obviously, guys, we had Barry Katz on.
Yeah.
Right. And, Nick was like, why is Barry Katz coming on our show? And I'm like, honestly, Nick, I have no idea, but let's see what happens. So we had Barry on. I don't even know if we got all the way through our intro, and Barry just started talking. And I'm pretty sure it's 9 months.
I think we said 4 words.
Yeah. He's still talking to us like 10 months later, and those are the best interviews, because people just come on and they roll, right? Because they're, Barry likes obviously to talk, he's a talker.
Oh,
but, he comes on and they just feel comfortable and they just start letting it go. And for guys on the other end of an interview, as like, the best thing your guest could do is talk.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing, is like, when you invite me to the show, like, all it takes is like 30 seconds watching of the show. It's like, okay, that's cool, because you make it very comfortable. It's like a chat. And so but definitely, I think having a lot of things, the behind the scene in a podcast are very funny, as you guys must know.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's funny too, because when I talk to a lot of comedians, especially younger guys who haven't really experienced the New York City comedy scene yet, they obviously know the Cellar, they know the history of the Cellar, they know about the table, but I don't think they really know where that table is, right? They think it's like in the front door of the Comedy Cellar. Like, you walk down, there's this table there with all these famous comedians sitting. I'm like, no, they're upstairs eating hummus.
Like, what's funny is like, especially when I was there, like I called it the golden era, obviously, because I'm there, so I'm gonna call it that. But at that time, it was there's so many, like, there's not one person that's not awesome. There's not one person that's not superstar right now, or like very, very great comedian. So we had that back table, which is the comedian's table, and there's a sign, you only sit here as a Comedy Cellar comedian. You can perform somewhere else, but if you're not a Comedy Cellar comedian, you can sit here. And we'll have from time to time people try to sit there, when nobody's there and you have to tell them. But what's funny is like once the comedians are there, nobody will dare sit in that table. They will wish that somebody sit there that's not, and they just roast them.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much. Jim Norton, Patrice. It's crazy. Imagine all these guys together.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. What did you think of the show Crashing?
Which one? Crashing?
Crashing.
It was good. I think it was good. It's always, there's also I think the Cellar this week at the Cellar, the Comedy Cellar.
Yeah.
At the Comedy Central. I think they're good, but I still yet to see. I don't know if you guys agree. Like, especially, I don't know, Nick, you've been to the Cellar?
I have not. No.
Yeah. I haven't seen a show that captured that yet. The whole thing.
What do you think's missing?
Honestly, I think a lot of people hold back because right now with the cancel culture and stuff like that, they just don't say everything,
Right.
But and also I think the problem is the producers, if they let, the bookers or, ST or Norm or Liz or somebody who's there and understand the energy, produce it, they co-produce, but if they produce it 100%, they will have that atmosphere in. Right. So I think a lot of times they go, and I see it a lot of times also when they were filming, is like they go with more of actors than comedians for somehow. But yeah, the behind the scene is, as I said, is the funniest part more than the stand-up itself, or anything that happens in the stage that only people understand in the room. Because sometimes you communicate from the stage to the room. I remember one time the computers went down, and while Dave Attell was on the stage, and he and we had to write everything on the checks, as on checks, and instead of like handwritten checks instead of the computers. So that took a long time. Right. So I kept telling him stretch. So he had this joke about how airplanes don't know if a terrorist is booking a ticket, because he'll say, my name is Bob, B as a bomb, O as a I'm saying that joke. Right. So he did this joke, and then he said, I don't know what the name is, like Aaron or something. I don't have no more jokes. G like get Godfrey. And nobody understand what's going on except us. We dying from laughter because he's communicating the joke to us. Like I've been here for 2 hours. Like, come on, so stuff like that,
Yeah, I can imagine it's got to be a pretty wild scene. It's true. Like the best show kind of happens not during the show. Like we had a show Saturday night, and it started off rough, right? Because we only can do 25 people in because our shows are part of kind of like a restaurant, right? So the restaurant only can have half capacity. So we have to play by the restaurant rules, not the performing art rules. So each show we do 2 shows, 25 people apiece. It's 6 and 8. So the first show, just by weird coincidence, I think we sold out or very close to selling out the 25 tickets, but a lot of people didn't show up for some reason. So we started late. It just got off on a bad vibe, and I was in the back stairwell with a couple other comedians, just ripping on the guy on stage and his act, and like ruthless, utterly ruthless. And I'm like, man, this is what the show should be.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so. I remember I had a show, my first show in Philly, or maybe my second, and Kevin Hart was performing or was going to perform, and it was me and Keith, and of course you can imagine sold out, people on top of each other, and in Philly it's not even my city, I don't know anything, and Keith is like, Kevin just canceled. So go on the stage and tell people Kevin canceled. I was like, I'm not going to stage and tell people they kill me. Are you crazy?
Yeah, in Philadelphia of all places.
Yeah, and he didn't cancel. It was just fucking with me.
He was just trying.
Yeah, and I was like, dude, I'm in the green room. Like, what am I gonna do? Like all these people. It's like, and we had like 3 shows in a row, like back to back to back. I was like, can't tell them like, and then he showed up. I was like, God, so stuff like that is always great,
That's pretty funny. Did you ever do stand up? You ever any
myself? Yeah. Before, no, but I did. A lot of times, I wrote a lot. Of stuff, especially like we'll have people like have TV shows or jokes or movies or stuff like that, and they want to add like something, from an immigrant point of view, or
Yeah.
immigrant language, or Middle Eastern, something like that. So will give me this as like, oh, why don't you read this, rewrite the part of that, so I start liking that. So I start writing a lot in that aspect.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
that I wrote a couple of shows here and there, but I never wanted to do stand up myself.
Yeah,
I
me.
want to write and produce. That's my thing.
Yeah, it's funny. I same with me. Like I don't have the get up on stage bug. Like I don't have it.
Yeah.
But I write. I'm a writer too, so I've written a lot of stuff and done TV shows and written for stuff. And
yeah, for some reason, I think if you want to be a good writer, you don't want to be, the performer. I don't know if you agree.
Yeah, you need to be like I mean, Nick's a fantastic, like he really is. He's a really good comedian. He has great on-stage presence. He connects with the audience and he reads it well. Like I just don't have that. Like at all. I don't have that passion on that bug. I don't have that intuition, and I don't think you can fake it. Like you could tell when someone
absolutely
doesn't have it or trying, but or fake.
Even though I do believe that, and not to take away from comedians, but I do believe that if anybody that want to do comedy eventually will get somewhere, not like great, but if you just, because it becomes a lot like acting. Like if you have a solid 15 minutes, that's it, and you can go. But if you want to be a comedian, obviously, as Nick knows, it's harder, to just be like new person every day, or have that sense of humor of like reading the news, reacting to it differently than anybody else. But a lot of people just become performers, like they have 15 minutes and they act it, so it's different. But yeah, I have a lot of respect for comedy, stand-up comedy, and comedians that I don't want to do it. Plus I want to be the best in what I do, and and I know it's not gonna happen. I don't know how Nick feels about it. It's a lot of hard work, a lot of rejection too.
Sure.
And you judge by people that don't know comedy. I'm saying most of the producers and networks, I don't want to mention their names because I don't want them to get pissed, but they don't know comedy. Who's the comedian that that in charge of something comedy?
Yeah, I have no idea.
I mean, besides Bill Burr has all things comedy.
Right.
Yeah, no, but Bill Burr is that. Yeah,
but Bill Burr is like, not only is he's a comic, but he's also like a man's man, a guy's guy. He's just like such a normal dude, and he essentially made that network. And he even said this, so like to help produce specials so comics don't get fucked. So he's it's different. He's not like sitting there like the CEO, like the businessman. Like he's done it. He's seen all the bullshit, and he doesn't want other people to have to go through it.
No, he's a great guy too. But but I'm saying in TV,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The producers, they don't. Yeah.
Well, there's no. I mean, every podcast you listen to, like, who needs TV? Like Joe Rogan doesn't need to be on a sitcom.
Yeah.
Like why would he? You know what I mean? He could just get high and talk to his friends.
Yeah.
Make $100 million. Like, you know what I mean? It's in the performer's hands now. It's different. Not everyone is waiting for the 3-4 late night spots or to get on SNL.
Yeah.
Or, even like, I don't know if, Shane Gillis, right? Like what happened with him and getting kicked off SNL. That's probably helped him.
Absolutely. I don't think
it's made him a little more famous, and he's moving tickets now. And it's like, did you really want to be on SNL, or like now you're, there's so many routes. There's no one way.
I think there's a lot of comedians also that can get on Netflix or something, and then they start their own underground thing.
Yeah.
And then they find the success and they get more money. Then
look at Mark Norman.
Yeah.
Put a special on YouTube. It's at 5 million views, I think now. Mm-hmm. Netflix was like, fuck you. Everyone said nah.
Yeah.
And he puts on, he goes on podcasts and he basically performs, and he's his funny self, and then 5 million views on YouTube. And you make money off that. So it's like, Andrew Schultz.
Andrew Schultz also have a great
example.
Followers and stuff like that. And he's a great comedian, very smart guy too. And, that's the thing is like, people can see through bullshit, they know where to find you, but now with the podcast, it's an outlet for a lot of people,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, it really is. It's opened up,
even though it's outlet for too many people.
I wasn't going to say that, but it does though. The thing is, if it's, obviously what you're alluding to, everybody is putting out a podcast now. It's who has the stamina to keep it going. Like, people ask me all the time. I would by no means say we're like, we're a fairly successful podcast, but we're just one of a billion, almost. But one thing people ask me all the time is like, what's your advice? And I'm like, don't even get started if you're not going to be consistent. Like, if you're going to do it once a month, then it's like,
that's with anything almost,
yeah,
if you're gonna like, I only exercise once a month. It's like, well,
it's not working. That's how I do too.
Yeah. Oh, weird. Okay.
With anything that you want to have consumption to, it's consistency, and it's continually being in someone's face, whether it's on social media or releasing a podcast, a new episode, or on YouTube, whatever it is. But if you can't be consistent, then you're really not setting yourself up for success. So,
the one thing I want to ask you though, because you're also right, is the one thing that I can't get myself to do is be consistently writing. It's just like, I can't do that. I have to be in a certain mood.
Yeah. Well,
I'm like that with stand up, to be honest.
Oh yeah. I mean,
yeah.
we're right too, because
But now I'll let Greg answer. But I was just gonna say, like, for me, now I'm forcing myself. Like today I literally was like 10 minutes. Look at what you got.
But you kind of have to, because you have to do it. We don't.
It's a must.
There's no deadline for us.
Yeah.
Right. And you think like for me, I'm thinking like, I'm going to sit down and like have this hour-long session and just like, it's like, nah, it's not the case. Like, you have an idea, you try to expand on it, tried it open mic. That kind of sort of worked. I mean, you know what I mean? You just got to keep, even if it's 10 minutes a day, something. But Greg, that was
I mean, when I had my music magazine, I started this music magazine solely because I wanted to get into a concert that I couldn't get into. And bullshit. I'm like, I have a music magazine, and it worked. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to start a music magazine now, because otherwise I'm a liar, and I didn't want to be a liar. So I did, and I ran it for 10 years, pretty successfully.
Nice.
Well, no, actually very successfully. And I wrote for the first like 5 years, 90% of the content myself. I did every interview, I did every concert review, I did everything myself. And it was the most stressful time that I could imagine going through in a professional way. And I did it as a hobby, right? And I would go see a show, and I would have to go home that night and write, because if I didn't do that, I knew I would probably never do it.
Yeah.
So unless I forced myself to sit down and do it, I knew I wouldn't do it. That's like my personality. That's why I failed through every school I ever went to.
Yeah.
And same thing with even writing for the podcast. Like, if I don't actually give myself a hard deadline, like, you need to do this at this time, it's going to just fall by the wayside. And I'm not going to do it. So that's the only advice I would give to someone, is give yourself your own embedded deadlines.
Yeah.
Right. Even if they don't.
You know what's funny is, like, for me, I started it as a joke because English is not my first language,
right?
And I always when I used to like write emails and stuff, it's not always like 100. So I don't remember who was making fun. It's like, what is this? Like, you don't even check your emails. You don't use. I was like, no. He's like, what do you do for a living? I was like, I'm a writer. So it was a joke. But there's like, what? I actually kind of like when I did that work with people. So it's
So before we wrap, like, what besides the podcast, is there anything you want to plug, pitch?
I mean, now we in the podcast we do a special edition. We do recap every month.
Right.
We get great comedians, and we just we did it. We started with the year 2020. We had a recap. We have 50. That was like crazy. 50 guests.
It's insane.
Back to back. We went from 6 to like 3 o'clock in the morning. And we did actually in the election as well, that we had good success in the election. So we did it again. So now we're doing a recap every month where we just go and recap everything that happened. Last episode we have Colin Quinn, Rich Voss, Bonnie. I don't want to forget, a lot of smart people, and me and Norm. So yeah,
Voss in there.
In that order. I know. In that order. Voss is awesome. He's so funny. We actually had Voss and Bonnie together in the same spot.
It's funny. I don't get intimidated very easily. Like, I really don't.
Yeah.
And Rich is one guy that just intimidates the shit out of me. And now, if he ever heard this, he'll make me pay for it. But he called me the other night, because we booked him for a show out here. And he called me at 10:30 at night, like like last week, and I'm like, there is no way I'm prepared to talk to Rich at 10:30 at night. I was just about to go to sleep. I'm like, I can't even do it. His message on my voicemail was, Alprin, Voss, call me back. Right. And I was like, okay. And then the next morning I didn't call him back yet. I figured, it's like 9 o'clock in the morning and I was getting my haircut. He called me while I was getting my haircut. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm in so much trouble. Like I just blew up 2 phone calls. And then when we talked, it was fine. But he just intimidates me. He's a great guy and very obviously.
Yeah, he could be. I could see that. A lot of that's why when you walk in the cellar, it's like back in the day when you see Patrice, recipes, and I think there's a documentary, by the way, coming about Patrice these days, coming up soon.
Yeah,
you see Patrice and Rich Voss and Jim Norton, Colin Quinn, and you're like, oh. You have to check what you're wearing first, because the first thing they do when you walk in is they check you up and down, find something, and then boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, dude. We so Lisa Lampanelli lives around here in Connecticut. She's from Connecticut, but obviously she was in the city, and we all know how popular she was. The Queen of Mean, right? That's her thing, the mean lady. She was telling us stories about Patrice O'Neill and how he basically made her cry. She's like, that motherfucker was the meanest. But she also said, she's like, the reason why I was the Queen of Mean is because I'm sensitive. So I was the one who was going after people. She's like, all comedians are sensitive people. You have to be to read a room and know what's going on and observe. But she was telling us some, the long story short, she said she had a nice convo with Patrice for like 45 minutes one night at the Cellar. He was having women troubles. And it was a nice convo. And the next day, Lisa said she was sitting with a bunch of comics and she was like, hi, Patrice, how are you? And he's like, we're not fucking friends now. I mean, and I was like, damn, oh my God. She's like, that killed me. And I was like, yeah, it would kill me too. I'd be like, oh.
I know. It's when Manny passed away in his funeral, after the funeral, Colin and Robert and a couple of comedians went for dinner. And Robert is he's a really good guy and very sensitive too. And we all loved Manny. So he's telling Colin, is like, listen, we only have each other, that's all, we have. And we have to be more like, look, Manny's gone. We have to be together and all that. And then he went to the bathroom and they all left him with the bill and left him in the restaurant by himself to pay too. And he's like, motherfuckers, I just stick together.
That's a good one.
That's what you deal with,
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, comedians are ruthless. Anyway, man, really, thanks a lot for hanging with us. It was a great chat.
Adam, this was great, man. It was great talking to you. Great meeting you. If you ever need anybody for anything you're producing, just send me a tape. Let me know.
Sure. Yeah, we gotta, and when things get calm down and Cellar open again, we should grab a drink or something over there.
For sure.
Hell yeah. I've never had, I've always heard about the restaurant above there, and I heard the food's incredible. I love that type of food, so I'm in. I could eat hummus all day, every day. So sign me up.
All right, dude. I will definitely keep in touch.
Yes, please.
And good luck. Can't wait to see what you guys start doing and what you're doing with your shows as this opens back up.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Thank you.
All right, man. Stay healthy.
Thank you. You too, guys. Thank you. Take care.